I wonder if you've ever thought about becoming a foster carer, of saying, yep, I've got my family, or maybe I don't have kids, I've got some spare room in my house, I've got a bit of time up my sleeve. Maybe I could step out of my world and step into somebody else's world and invite them into my life. We've learnt that there is a desperate shortage of foster caring families right across the state of New South Wales, including the Hunter. So we thought all through the course of this week we'd find out how the world of foster caring, or now they call it out-of-home care, actually works. The poignant story of 20-year-old Jasmine, who ended up in foster care as a teenager, really tore at our heartstrings yesterday.
My mother couldn't look after me and meet the best of my needs, and I had a carer come to me and say, we're just going to put you in care for 2 weeks just to give your mother some time, and it turned out to be much longer than that.
How hard was it with Mum?
It was quite hard. I explain it as she treated me like a doll. At one stage she would love me and look after me. At another stage other things were more important, and she would neglect me for a while. She'd go out very late at night and come back early hours in the morning and things like that. So
did you find that you were there on your own and having to literally fend for yourself?
Yes. I kind of relied. My dog was my best companion when I was a child.
How long did that go on for?
Probably till I was 14, until I came into care. Yeah.
From when you were a real little girl, from scratch?
Yep. I remember when I was 6 that my mother said that she just needed to go to work in Sydney overnight, but she'll be back in the morning, and left me home.
And you were 6?
Yeah.
Were you scared?
Yeah. I ran to the neighbour's house and she had to come back home.
So Jasmine, at the age of 6, was already feeling the difficulty of not being cared for properly. It was at the age of 14 that she was placed in a group home until one day she was introduced to a new foster family.
They were ringing up and no one wanted to take a suicidal 16-year-old. There was a family who said yes, and this family was much different to the other families. I didn't feel like a burden. I was just already one of them, and they didn't hold against my behaviours of what I was. They just looked at my potential of what I could be, and they just fostered that.
They indeed fostered her potential. Shane Murray is a local man from the region who has said yes to young women like Jasmine. In fact, he's done it, 8 times now. Is that right, Shane Murray?
That's right, Jill, yes, and good morning.
8 families, or 8 kids you've taken into your home.
8 children. We've got 1 in permanent care. He came to us when he was 22 months old. He'd been through 5 different foster families since he was removed from his home at 14 months. So we've had him full-time, and we've had foster kids, emergency care, respite care, on 7 other kids come through the house.
Wow, when you have them for respite care, let's sort of start with the bub, the little one. He's still with you?
Oh yes, he will be with us until he wants to leave us.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, I wonder, as you said, he went through half a dozen families before he ended up with you. Are you able to give me any insight into how come that happens, Shane?
So
many people seem to want a baby.
Well, he was removed at 14 months, and his traumas happened of the night time. As Karen was saying yesterday, with the respite children she has, trauma was of the night time. I never saw my bed for 3 months. I just had to hold him and walk around the lounge room for 3 months. Next morning, he would just smile, and I look at it like an operation. If you've had an operation, you tend to forget about the pain afterwards, and that's what he was like when he'd smile at you in the morning. The sun had come up, and he was like a different child.
So does it seem then that, given that he'd been so traumatised as a small baby, that for the am I understanding it right, that he went to a number of families before he found your family?
5 families.
5 families just couldn't manage this screaming baby.
Yes, and 2 of those families had different reasons. A couple, the husband had heart problems, and one of the other families, the girl was going through a HSC period, so she couldn't study. So you can understand why they just couldn't cope with his nighttime behaviours.
Okay, so you said that you would, you gave it a crack. You worked out that was his thing, that this child had been so traumatised, night horrors were his problem. You dealt with them by staying up all night.
Yeah, we just had to work out what was best for him and see if we could work our way through it. A lot of times we were thinking, what have we got ourselves in for? But as I said, he would give you the most brilliant smile of a morning, and he'd settle right down. So he'd sleep of a daytime, I'd sleep of a daytime. And so we were able to form a bit of a pattern. He wouldn't have too much to do with my wife at that stage. Karen used to go off to work, and it was just the little fella and myself. So he sort of attached and bonded to me.
How old is he now?
He turns 9 next month.
Oh, how's he going at school?
Loves it.
Does he call you Dad?
Yes. I get Dad, and Mum gets Mum.
Have you got kids of your own?
Oh, yeah. We've got a daughter who's just turned 30 and has 2 children of her own, and our boy is 27.
So what do they think of you taking in these other children?
They're really good. We started this journey some 7 years ago through the training and all that, but prior to that, we'd spoken about foster caring on and off for years, and when our work circumstances changed, our kids came to us and said, "You've talked about it enough, isn't it time you did something about it?" So they were the catalyst that sort of pushed us into foster caring. They're really good. They can see when we're getting stressed, especially with some of the other kids we've had through the place, and they're good with family and friends. They're really good sounding boards. They'll come to us and say, "Listen, it's not working. You've got to start taking care of yourself, and it's time to put your hands up for help."
Shane Murray, at 22 after 9 on 12:33, ABC Newcastle. He's fostered 8 children over the last 7 years. Shane, I'm getting, as you paint that picture, a sense that you're actually at home during the day.
That's correct.
Does that make it easier for you?
I'm on call for our little fella just in case something happens at school and he needs to be collected. He's got a real aversion to blood, and he suffers a fair bit through bleeding noses. And it works, and he gets into a bit of a state, and so I'm there just in case the school rings, and I'm only 5 minutes away, so I can go and collect him and settle things down.
Without prying, how do you pay the bills?
I send the wife off to work.
Oh, he's got it all sorted. Okay, so your wife works.
Yes.
And you stay at home.
Yes.
Okay, and you've got this little boy, he's 9. Your kids are older, so
Yep.
that means that they weren't at home when you started in this journey?
No, our daughter moved away. She's in Melbourne. Our son went overseas on and off for 3 to 4 years, and he would come home, and when he'd come home, he'd be there for 3 to 4 months, and so he saw some of these kids come through our place. So, he has been there but mainly with our young fellow, well, he's constant there, and whoever comes, he's got priority. We sort of get shunted to the background with any visitors, and they're all over our little fella.
And you were happy to go down this avenue of, once again, parenting a child through school, having shuffled your others off and into adulthood. A lot of parents would say, what about the golf course?
Oh, it's a totally big learning curve, and I like my books, but I'm reading books now that, 8 years ago I would have laughed at you, and if someone would have come to me and said, you'll be reading these books.
What kind of books?
Just to learn about their behaviour, what causes the trauma, and just ways of trying to help us understand all these kids, not just the one that we've got permanently, but to understand what goes on with these kids and try and work out some strategies that we may be able to help them.
Give me some insights into what you've learned about the experience of the kids that you take through in respite care.
It's quite funny. With our nieces and nephews, they've inquired, why does Angus play up why does our little fella play up sometimes when he does? And it's through reading and through training, we've learnt that young babies at an early age, when they're learning, their brain stems normally grow straight through, and this is the way, straight up, and this is the way I explain it. It's probably the easiest way to explain it to little kids who don't understand why kids in care might be playing up. And kids that have experienced trauma and abuse, their brain stems sort of go out to the side, grow out sideways. So with training and strategies, we're going to try and bring that brainstem back to get it to go straight up again. And that's how we explain it to our nieces and nephews. And that's why we're caring for these kids as much as possible. And we're giving our nieces and nephews an understanding as well, especially the young ones, that, there's kids out there that haven't got the privileges of what you guys have got when you're growing up in that safe, secure, loving environment. And we're just trying to do our tiny little bit to, help these kids.
emergency and respite care, does that mean that you might get a phone call in the middle of the night?
Could do, yeah, especially with emergency care. We've found, with the kids we've had for respite care, if we're going to get emergency care, that's mainly where it comes from. Where the kids, young people are at, their placement might break down. We've had that connection with the kids because of respite care, so that's where the phone call might come. So, yeah, but we've had the phone calls from our organisation to say, are you in a position, we've got a young person who's just left home, run away, can't cope anymore, are you in a position to help us out? And that could be from 1 night to 1 week to 3 months, and that's emergency care. And if we've got the room, if we're in the right frame of mind to do it, we'll say yes, because we always say that if we're not in a good position, we'll probably be doing more harm to the young person. So we're going to make sure we're okay to do it before we even look at looking after another young person.
Okay, so if you really need to say no, you'll say no.
Oh, yes, yeah, and for the benefit, because we focus on the benefit for the child, and if we just say yes for the sake of saying yes, it could do more harm to the young person, to the young child, than what has been done previously.
Have there been situations, Shane, at 26 after 9, Shane Murray with me, have there been situations where it hasn't worked out with a child, that you've tried all these strategies, that you've done all this reading and it just hasn't worked out, and you've got to the end of your tether and you've had to say, I can't look after this child anymore, and literally, I hate to use this phrase, give the child back?
Yeah, we've had 4 children in that situation. It got to the point that with our young fella being in care, he was starting to get agitated, anxious and all that with the behaviour of these other kids, and we've had to say, it's not working, we have to, but we won't do it immediately. We just put our organisation on notice to say things aren't working out, it's going to come to a head shortly, we need to start looking at alternatives to these children in care. We had one young girl with us who just said, I appreciate what you've done for us, but I just need somewhere else to be, and she basically just
checked herself out.
Yeah.
How old was she?
She came to us at 14. She was 16 when she said, and that was on and off over 2 years. We had her come through our front door. A lovely girl, but she just had issues. And she threw her hand up and said, I appreciate what you've done for us, but I need to go and get more help for myself and do it by myself.
You've got me just about weeping here, Shane, at the prospect of just getting such a close encounter of how hard life is for some children right now as we sit here in the total comfort of 12:33. And I've already got, this text has come in from Angie saying that she's so impressed with your story, your commitment to looking after your foster son during the night as a baby. She's right now looking after her own 9-week-old at the moment. She was moved to tears. Thank you to all the foster carers for being willing to give something back to society and care for children who need it. Angie has been inspired to look into foster caring after her little girl is a bit older. Were you one of those people once, that just sort of thought about it and were inspired? Well, it sounds like you were, because it took you a while to get there.
Yeah. Oh, no, we talked about it. My wife's family used to take a boy out of Woodlands home here in Newcastle. He was an orphan. And we spoke to him years and years later, and the love and affection he had for my wife's family just maintains it through now. And that's put the seed into our minds that, yes, one day we would. But we looked around to all the other organisations, and I would encourage people, if they are thinking about doing it, there's a lot of organisations now in Newcastle that look after fostering. Do your research, do your homework, and find the organisation that would fit you, and that's what we did. We didn't just go off and find one organisation. We did our homework and we did our research, and the organisation we have, which is CatholicCare, is our fit. We're really comfortable with them.
Look, there's a few more questions I'd like to ask you about this, Shane. Are you happy to stay?
Oh, yeah,
we've got to pause for the news break in a moment, but a couple of questions come to mind, and I know that there's people listening in going, "Oh, this is hard. This is too hard," or maybe people are looking at you and going, "Okay, well, if he can do it, he seems a pretty normal, everyday bloke." Are you moved by a Christian ethos or any particular ethos?
I'm Catholic, but I'm not a practicing Catholic.
Oh yeah,
so,
there's a lot of you.
Yeah. So no, I just couldn't imagine my kids or my nieces, my nephews being in a situation where they haven't got a home to go to, where they might be in fear. I just think that if we can do that tiny little bit, that whether it's one or two kids that we can just make safe or secure for a short period of time. Well, yeah, we don't do it for kudos. We don't do it for pat on the back. We don't do it for recognition. We just want to do it so we may be able to give a kid a little bit of direction now and again.
Shane Murray with me in the studio. He's going to stick around. We're discussing the powerful experience of a man in our region, Shane Murray from Windella near Maitland, who's fostered kids, 8 of them over the past 7 years. And we're going to spend some time all this week learning more about foster caring, sparked initially because we learnt that there is a desperate shortage of foster carers right across the state and right here in our region. Shane, thanks for sticking around.
My pleasure.
When the sense that there is a shortage of carers, does that impact on people who care?
I think it's a choice you've got to make, and you've got to go in with it in all the right reasons. Some people go in it with rose-coloured glasses on, and when they're going through the training, the assessment program, well, that's when they find out, hey, this isn't what I would probably signed up to do. So, you've got to be committed. There's no other way of saying it. You have to be 110% committed. Otherwise, once again, the child it could fall through the cracks.
Let's find out what's involved in this training and what are some of the key things that you, having been a parent, what did you learn in training to be a foster carer that was different to your parenting?
I think the big thing with the training process is that you learn that the background of these children, why they've come into care, whether it's sexual abuse, domestic violence. It might be because the birth parents need, for their own health reasons, need a break. And I think it just allows you to understand the needs of these children that do come into care and some strategies that you can put in place to help these children.
How long did you have to train for?
Well, we went through the training 8 years ago, so things have changed a little bit now, but our process took approximately 4 months. I'm led to believe most training, assessments and all that now could take anywhere between 6 to 9 months from start to finish.
That's a hell of a commitment.
It is, but it finds out... You're looking at yourself. A lot of the training makes you re-evaluate, re-establish your guidelines, have a look in at yourself, and because there'd be nothing worse than having a child and saying, oh, no, this isn't what I signed up for. So it makes you look at yourself a fair bit and question yourself and make sure that you're doing it for all the right reasons.
What about the cost?
Well, they give you an allowance, depending though, but when we signed up, we didn't even know there was an allowance involved. So it's just there for any expenses, for his, if he wants to play sports on the weekend, that sort of thing, just to help out, petrol costs.
So you didn't think about your family's financial situation? I mean, you can't have to. You'd have to be okay financially, wouldn't you? Because you wouldn't want to subject a child to being, stressed under your own financial situation.
Exactly right. So we were okay, but yeah, we never signed up and we never knew there was an allowance involved until we started through the process.
What about the need to have a big home? Is that part of it?
We're comfortable. We've got 3 bedrooms, so we're not real big, but we've always got one for our little boy who's in permanent care, and we always keep one spare. If our daughter and hubby and with our 2 grandsons come home, well, they've got the other room. If our other son comes home at the same time, well, he works out the bush. He can sleep in his swag out the backyard. He's used to doing that. So we've got contingencies.
Okay, so you got a bit of you got it all worked out. It's a bit of a highly operating machine. It sounds like.
We like camping. The young fella loves camping, so doing it rough now and again doesn't hurt us. So
I've heard that often that parents, are keen to have little babies, as that their ideal would be little babies. And you've described, you've kind of disabused me of that being rosy, given that you've got a baby that's going to cry all night for 3 months.
Oh, I'm not saying that all of them do it, but I don't want to put the fear factor in people that are thinking about it. But the reality is these kids come, with baggage. Well, most of them come with baggage, and there's going to be issues that you will encounter.
Tetchy teenagers. Even if they're your own blood, you can often want to shove them out the front door.
Oh, exactly right.
Taking one in,
yes,
that's got the normal teenager sort of, shadow, and come from, a string of 5 other houses.
Yep.
How hard's that?
Oh, it's very hard. And I look at it the opposite way. How hard is it for the child coming into your place not knowing you? So, it's got to be more difficult for them coming to a complete stranger's house and trying to fit in with us, more so than us trying to fit in with them. So it's a process that we're learning all the time. I look at it like a roller coaster ride. If you like roller coaster rides, it's very scary and it's up and down, and that's what fostering is. But at the end of a ride, you come out and you get a fairly good buzz about it. So.
Do you stay in touch with the kids that have been through your doors?
We don't. We would love to, but we allow them, if they want to contact us, they know how to contact us. But there's not a birthday comes up. We know when all the birthdays are. Christmas comes up. And, the wife and I sit around and say, I wonder what they're doing. I wonder if they're having a meal today. Are they been able to get a present today or something like that? Yeah, no, we wonder. We wonder how they're coping, Are they still alive? That sort of thing.
And that's a realistic question to ask, isn't it?
Oh, yes. A couple of the kids we've had come through our doors, I really worry about them and thinking that, I don't know whether they would be still alive or are they still alive or how they're going.
If they're that on the edge of being alive, has that ever meant that you've worried about your own security in your own home by taking some of these kids in?
Worry, but don't get paranoid about it. We've just, we're pretty. Karen's in the medical team, and my former life as a copper. Well, we're pretty tuned into our own safety, safety of our little fella, which is paramount. So, no, we're aware of it, but we don't become paranoid about it.
Okay, so if I'm a parent and my partner's not got your kind of, very appropriate background, or, am I right? Like, would it take the, particular kind of professional background or mindset to be a foster carer?
No, I think it doesn't have to take any type of background, because when you're going through a training process, they will teach you up skills to put into place. And with our organisation, with CatholicCare, when we first started this, we had them on speed dial, both at our home phone and our mobile. And I can tell you, we would ring 2 or 3 times a day and just say, we don't know whether we're doing this right.
Wow, what the hell? Yeah, what am I doing?
Because, our kids were off our hands. It was, and parenting to foster caring, it's similar, but the kids are different. To your own kids, to what they are. So, there's plenty of help out there with the organisation.
Yeah, so you don't have to be someone special to be a foster carer.
No. I think all you have to do is have a very generous heart.
It's just such a delight to meet you, Shane Murray. I'm totally inspired, and I think many people listening in this morning will be inspired by you, and particularly you saying that it's a generous heart. That's all you need to be in the world of foster caring. I wonder, and because the clock's really against me now, I wonder whether you could look at you as a man, as a parent, before you went on this journey, compared to who you are now.
Oh, I would say, my friends, I would suggest to you, would say I've changed. I've had that hardened type of thing prior to foster caring. Some of them might think I'm a bit of a softie now, a bit of a pushover, but no. Both Karen and I have changed our philosophies in the way we look at our own grandkids, the way we look at our nieces and nephews, and no, I think it's really helped us develop ourselves.
So it's good for you as well as the kids?
Oh, exactly, yes.
Thank you so much for coming in and telling us your story.
My pleasure.
Shane Murray's his name. Any questions coming your way? 1333 1233 is the number. Our text is 0487 99 1233. We're going to continue this thread tomorrow and meet one of the agencies in the Hunter that's trying to get more people like Shane Murray on their books. On their books. On their books.